You have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Prince Harry has overplayed his hand with his lawsuit with the Home Office over taxpayer-funded security and his disastrous BBC interview. The BBC is even apologizing after facing huge amounts of backlash for their lapse in judgment for a very one-sided interview that was poorly executed. Now Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are losing allies amid this fallout, and they only have themselves to blame. You guys, we have a lot of juicy royal daily tea to get through today, so you know what to do. Sit back and relax, grab yourself a beverage, and let's get into the royal daily tea. So Prince Harry sat down with the BBC and told the entire world that he wants to reconcile with his family, but his daddy was not returning his phone calls. The problem is that ship has sailed. Back in 2021, right after Prince Philip had passed away, which was about a month after the Oprah Winfrey interview, if you remember in his book Spare, Harry talked about how Prince William and King Charles tried to talk to him. They tried to have a secret meeting. They tried to sit him down. They were very, very concerned after the Oprah Winfrey interview, after all of those allegations that Harry and Meghan were telling the entire world. They were very concerned about the people that Harry was surrounding himself with. They were very, very concerned about the hippy-dippy, marijuana that he was smoking and those magic mushrooms and those healers. They were concerned what was going on with Harry. They were there for him. They were trying to sit this man down, and he didn't want any of it. He said he didn't want to hear it. So now, 4 years later, he's decided, okay, after I've attacked y'all relentlessly, after the H&M documentary on Netflix, after the book Spare, after countless interviews where I've trashed you, I'm ready now to reconcile. Of course, once Daddy signs the check and reinstates my security, I'm willing to come over, guys, and, sing Kumbaya, and I'm going to bring my kids. And Meghan, aren't you excited? And they're like, no, we're good. Seriously, stay over there. He doesn't understand that he has continuously attacked his family. He thinks it's no big deal. He even said in the interview, yeah, they're upset about, my book and the documentary, but I have truth on my side, so I'm justified. It doesn't matter that I hurt them or increase the amount of hate that they get on social media. It doesn't matter because I'm willing to forgive them and I'm willing to move on. So they just need to sweep it under the carpet. The problem is, Harry, you constantly attack them, and after years and years of abuse, they finally had to tell themselves, we got to love him from afar, and we got to close the door. And that's what they've done. You have 2 members of your family battling some form of cancer. I think they have other things to worry about than you and your wife in Montecito. So Harry knows this, but he won't admit it. So when he sat down for the BBC interview, it was kind of shocking, for one, that he chose the BBC and not ITV with Tom Bradby. Now, if y'all remember, he was friends with Tom Bradby, and Tom Bradby's the one who did that interview where he asked Meghan Markle, are you okay? And she's like, thanks for asking, because nobody ever asked me if I'm okay. Do y'all remember that? But the last interview that he did with Tom Bradby got a little dicey because Tom Bradby called him on his shit. He basically said, well, you've accused the royal family of being racist. And Harry literally was like, no, we didn't. Harry said, oh, no, we didn't. It was the British media. The British media said that. Here's the clip.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
No, we didn't.
Well,
the British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
Yeah,
Archie's
there was
skin
concern
colour.
about his skin colour.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't.
Literally lying through his teeth. Like we don't have memories, like we don't have clips of the Oprah Winfrey interview.
They didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
It was really hard.
There is a way of doing things, but for us, for this union and the specifics around her race, it was an opportunity, many opportunities, for my family to show some public support. You know, my grandmother has been amazing throughout. You know, my father, my brother, Kate, and all the rest of the family, they were really welcoming. My father and my brother, they are trapped. They don't get to leave. And I have huge compassion for that.
Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
there are several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you
it. With Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
That conversation, I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
Okay.
They literally implied on several occasions that it was race related. But now he's saying he never called them racist. That was the British media. And he never came out and corrected that assumption. So for 4 years, he's never corrected the assumption that they called the royal family racist. As a matter of fact, an inside source close to the couple, wink, wink, Harry and Meghan, told Omid Scooby-Doo, and he wrote about it in a book calling Catherine and King Charles the royal racists, asking about Archie's skin color. Didn't correct that either, right? But he didn't call them racist. So Harry sitting there with that little smug face, acting like, look, I know they're upset that I did a lot of crappy things, but they kind of need to get over it because I'm more important than me hurting them and slandering them for 5 years. That was the audacity and his attitude, the entitlement, the arrogance that he had during that interview. I want to reconcile, but I'm going to keep punching them during this interview. So the interview was originally supposed to be for 10 minutes, but Harry wanted to talk. He had a lot to say, went over 30 minutes, which they weren't expecting. The interesting thing is they said it was open-ended. They could ask anything they wanted, but that reporter did a very crappy job. She literally just took everything that he said at face value. It was kind of like the Oprah Winfrey interview where they did no research, not even a Google research, y'all. They just took everything that Harry and Meghan said at face value. And literally the BBC did not push back. Now, she did ask a couple of questions like, well, you walked away as a working royal. Why are you, justified in asking for security? And he gave those really cringy, weak arguments. But I will have to hand it to the BBC because they did apologize for their horrible judgment, for their one-sided story with no research. They said they should have included the statement from Buckingham Palace, from the Home Office, and they didn't do any research to his very dangerous claims of this, mythical people, this force working behind the scenes that want to keep him and his family unsafe. It's very, very damaging and dangerous, the accusations he is pretty much making to the sitting king of the UK. So in my personal opinion, I think that the BBC was just happy that Prince Harry gave them this golden interview, right? Because everyone knows it's going to get astronomical views. And the thing that was surprising to a lot of people, how Harry has dined out on the Diana card for 25 years. He has literally monetized and dined out on the memory of his mother. So the fact that he sat down with the BBC was a little disgusting and a little shocking because if you remember, Princess Diana sat down for that infamous Martin Bashir interview and they lied to her. They tricked her into doing this interview. She was very paranoid. She was believing that her royal guards and people who worked for her were spying on her and reporting back to Charles. So she actually released her royal security. She had royal protection and she didn't want it. And a lot of people believe that Martin Bashir was also responsible for her paranoia that she had that led to her release and her royal security and could ultimately have contributed to her accident in Paris where she passed away. Because at that time, she no longer had royal protection and they were chased by paparazzi in that tunnel. Now, a former security guard for Princess Diana said that if he was working with her, she never would have gotten that car because, first of all, the gentleman who was driving the car was drunk. Secondly, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And third, they might have had a way they could have blocked off the roads. Maybe the paparazzi would not have been able to detail them, or perhaps they would have had a better route for them to travel at night where they wouldn't have been detected. Unfortunately, she was just a sitting duck. There was no protection. So the fact that Harry sat down with the same company that gave that horrific interview with Princess Diana is astounding because this man has not stopped dining out on the memory of his mother. I'm sure Prince William is just spitting mad right now that his brother would sit down with the BBC. Talk about history repeating itself, son. You just did. You took an interview just like your mom did. And look what happened to her. Your poor mother was tricked into giving this interview. She would be so disappointed that you voluntarily sat down and whinged on your own family. That's disgusting. And there's a rumor he was paid for this. I don't know if that's true. I don't have any facts, but there's a rumor he was paid for this interview. And if he was paid for this interview, you guys, that would be so disgusting. Now, Prince Harry, as we know, has lost quite a few of his childhood friends, people that were in his old inner circle. Pretty much ever since he got with Meghan Markle, they have dropped like flies. Well, apparently he has lost another friend, a major financial ally. The son of a billionaire, Sir James Goldsmith, came out and blasted Harry publicly, saying he is unforgivable for what he did. He said, "This is very tragic but true. Prince Harry's behavior is unforgivable." So I think a lot of people are just disgusted by what Prince Harry did. He literally accused the sitting king and these mythical dark forces behind the scenes of wanting to harm him and his wife intentionally, which is bullcrap. This was done through a court of law. Many people looked at the situation. They weighed it heavily. It was a third party. And they came to the conclusion that a case-by-case basis was the best alternative route moving forward for a non-working royal. Many royals do not have security. Even Princess Anne, I believe, does not have 24/7 top-level security, and she was almost kidnapped. Princess Eugenie, Princess Beatrice. Now, I know they're not as popular, but their security was removed in 2009, I believe 2010, when it was deemed it wasn't necessary because they were farther down the pecking order. I believe they might have been 6th and 7th in line, and they were non-working royals. So the fact that Harry's astonished that it was taken from him is shocking. But it tells you that a lot of people are looking at Harry and Meghan, and they're starting to see the hypocrisy of them. Two people who whinge and whine and complain about their lot in life, complained about being stuck in the royal bubble, in the zoo, like caged animals, and they went off on their own, but they refused to relinquish their titles, and they want taxpayer-funded security. It's like, oh my God, do you hear yourself? So remember, when Harry and Meghan did the Oprah Winfrey interview, that was right after the 12-month Megxit had come to an end, and the Queen told them, you don't have to come back. You can just stay out there in California. And by the way, we're going to take away your security now, and we're going to take away your royal patronages. But hey, we'll see you at Christmas. And that's when he was bitter, and they were very, very angry that that was going to happen to them. So they sat down on Oprah for a revenge interview thinking, okay, after the royal family gets a load of this, her phone's going to ring off the hook, right? They're going to apologize publicly, and they're going to reinstate our security, and they're going to tell everyone how they were wrong. So Harry and Meghan really did think that that Oprah Winfrey interview was going to make the royal family buckle. So when Harry and Meghan did the Oprah Winfrey interview, guys, that was because they were trying to threaten and strong arm the royal family into a submission. They were going to force the royal family to give in to their demands. They wanted to be half in and half out. They wanted to have their security reinstated, and they were going to do it on national television. That way they can make sure the royal family looked bad and would be forced into doing what they wanted. Harry and Meghan really thought that they were going to make the royal family issue a formal apology to Meghan Markle for her, quote, mistreatment, for not fighting her story in the tabloids. Remember, she wanted them to shut down all of the tabloids. But the problem is Harry and Meghan overplayed their hand, because the royal family knows when to hold them and knows when to fold them. And the royal family just said, recollections may vary. Ouch. That was not the response that Harry and Meghan were looking for. They really thought, okay, once we get on Oprah, we're going to be in charge. We're in the driver's seat. And the royal family said, not so fast. Recollections may vary, meaning your recollection of events is different than our recollections, but we're going to agree to disagree. And the royal family followed their old rule, never complain, never explain. Now, a lot of people are very frustrated with that, but in my opinion, that was a genius move, a genius poker move, because they called Harry and Meghan's bluff, meaning put up your receipts, son. You're going to come out and accuse us of all these things. Where are your receipts? Now, the beauty of the royal family calling the bluff of Harry and Meghan and pretty much not acknowledging that what they were saying is true. They just said recollections may vary. Harry and Meghan have never provided any real evidence of mistreatment of Meghan or racist behavior. So in a way, by the fact that the royal family has kind of let Harry and Meghan hang themselves is a genius move, because let's be honest, Harry and Meghan have done this all by themselves. They put themselves in this corner, and it's all their fault. They cannot blame anyone for the fact they are the most unpopular royals, right there with little Uncle Andy, okay? This is all their undoing. The whole purpose of the CBS interview was, again, Harry is trying to get his father's attention, and the only way he can do it is to get on national television and say, I'm trying to reconcile with my family, but my daddy won't call me. Again, he's throwing stones at the royal family, but he apparently didn't learn anything from the first time. He overplayed his hand again, because the royal family has completely ignored him. All they did was release a statement from Buckingham Palace pretty much backing up and supporting the findings of the court case, saying it was thoroughly investigated and we agree with the court's decision. That's it. And they went back and they celebrated V-Day, and they just keep on keeping on, literally acting like the BBC interview didn't even happen. Now, you have to admit that's a wonderful move, because when you are dealing with people like Harry and Meghan especially, who is a narcissist, they hate to be ignored. So the fact that the royal family now has zero contact, there's no contact with Harry and Meghan, and every time they act out in public, they get no response. That is a genius move, because Meghan cannot stand it. Now, of course, Meghan Markle had to act out the very next day with a very weird photograph of Prince Harry and his two kids kind of walking into the sunset in their backyard in Montecito. And to me, it was a very sad photo. And it was very, very obvious that Meghan Markle was trying to send a message to King Charles and the royal family. You're never, ever, ever, ever going to see us again. that you made your bed, you made your choice, you turned your back on us, therefore we're turning our back on you. And I thought that was so messed up. The beauty of Instagram and Meghan returning to Instagram is that we get to see how petty she is and how dumb she is and how predictable she is. But Harry and Meghan keep overplaying their hand, and it is blown up in their face. So it is said that, of course, King Charles is very, very sad because he does miss his son. He loves his son, but as the king and the head of state, he cannot intervene in government affairs. Harry knows this, and the fact that he keeps pushing for his father to intervene on his behalf, it's really sad and it's selfish. It proves that Prince Harry has arrested development. He's still that 12-year-old boy walking behind the coffin of his mom, which is very, very heartbreaking, but he's going to be 41 years old. And I had someone on my channel comment that we need to be kinder and that poor Prince Harry was born into privilege and he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know anything else. Well, in my personal opinion, that's not an excuse for bad behavior. People need to quit infantilizing this 41-year-old father of two. We need to take the teat out the mouth, quit breastfeeding this man-child. He needs to be responsible for his own actions. It's been 5 years since him and his wife left the royal family. Now, an insider says they believe that Prince Harry's never going to stop. He's like a dog with a bone. And the sad thing is, I think he could be correct. I think Prince Harry's going to keep on keeping on, and there's a rumor that he might come out with Spare 2.0. Now, we know he had quite a few chapters left over from the original Spare book. And let's be honest here, they always say you have to worry about the people who have nothing to lose. And the fact that the royal family has 100% cut off Harry and Meghan and their kids, well, he might try to throw another rock at them to get their attention with a burn book. So let me know what y'all think about Prince Harry's interview with the BBC. Do you think this was a desperate attempt to get the king's attention? And did he overplay his hand? Leave me your comments, guys, down below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you and hope to see y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.